Pollution, something that is ravaging our planet at an alarming speed. But what is it? Pollution, by definition, is the presence or introduction into the environment of a substance or thing that has harmful or poisonous effects. Pollution began to skyrocket during the Industrial Revolution from 1760 to 1840. United States citizens have the largest carbon footprint of 20 metric tons. Even if the American was homeless, they would still generate an 8.5-ton carbon footprint and would not be able to reach the global average of 4 tons. That global average also includes the United States carbon footprint.
Although every country contains glaciers, the majority of glaciers on Earth reside in Greenland and Antarctica. These glaciers are melting due to an all-around global increase in temperature of 0.8 degrees Celsius or 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit. What causes this are emissions of primarily CO2 and methane gas. The surplus of CO2 and methane gas emissions has trapped heat within our atmosphere at a rate that is faster than its depletion. CO2 is transparent to solar radiation as sunlight enters the atmosphere. This solar radiation is deflected off the Earth back towards space. When deflected, it is converted into infrared radiation. CO2 is opaque to this radiation. In turn, it traps it in our atmosphere.
This chart represents the rates of each greenhouse gas emitted by the U.S. over the course of 24 years. The most recent years show that we released 1.51 trillion pounds of emissions in 2014. Note the 7% increase since 1990. The two largest greenhouse gases are carbon dioxide and methane. Carbon dioxide is released by cars, factories, and people. Methane, however, is released by livestock, natural gas, and coal mines.
As the oceans take part in regulating climate as well, this process of trapping heat will ultimately disrupt the density-driven convection currents of the ocean. These currents carry warm and cold air up and down latitudes that sustain life on this Earth. This all approaches the subject of global warming.
Here's an interesting fact about aerosol. During the 1980s and 1990s, the media used the word aerosol to refer to the spray cans that release chlorofluorocarbons into the air, which damaged the ozone layer and created the ozone hole. However, aerosol actually means atmospheric particulate, small particles found in the atmosphere. The only true aerosol is soot. This soot actually kept the Earth 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit cooler than without it. Aerosols are not good, however. They can cause lung disease and reduce rainfall in certain regions of the world. Water pollution is a large and growing issue for the world. Large collections of plastic in the ocean, oil being leaked into the ocean, harming marine life. This chart shows the 3 ways oil enters our oceans, excluding the natural leakage of 47 million gallons seeping into the ocean floor. As you can see, an alarming 89% of the oil that ends up in the ocean comes from human activities like jet skis, polluted rivers, and airplanes. A surprisingly small amount of oil comes from oil spills, only 8%. Finally, the last 3% are from exploration and extraction of oil. What you see in this chart here is the number of states with an excess amount of lead in their water. The reason for such high lead amounts can be attributed to pesticide use. America uses 2.2 billion tons of pesticide each year. These pesticides will eventually find their way into water pipes and corrode away lead piping. This lead is then introduced into the water system.
Agriculture produces more pollution than one would think. Fertilizers and manure used for soil structure or aggregation result in excess nitrogen and phosphorus in the ground, as nitrogen promotes plant growth. These elements wash away into streams and rivers from the water cycle and then get spit out into the ocean, forming dead zones, such as the one on the Gulf of Mexico south of Louisiana or the one in the Baltic Sea. For those of you who don't know what a dead zone is, it is an area of the ocean near a river runoff which is stripped of oxygen. This is caused by algae consuming the nitrogen and phosphorus nutrients we are responsible for. Overgrowth of these cyanobacteria in algae totally deplete the oxygen in these waters. Suffocation of slow-moving nectin and marine life occurs until it is nothing but a dead zone. Scientists believe next year will set a record of the largest dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico caused by the U.S. and other locations around the globe, all due to farmers making their soil more fertile.
Although some may think they can deny climate change, the facts are undeniable. The Earth is warming due to our pollution, and we are suffering the consequences from it. We can't afford to not be in the Paris Climate Agreement.